Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the meeting. We do have an agenda. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. We've got a call to order. I'd like to approve the minutes of the last, well, first, before we really get into the meeting, I would like to put an addition into the agenda. We do need it to accept communications that have been received since our last meeting. So if we could add, after the approval of minutes, add in the agenda for communications. And we would need to vote on that we're changing the agenda. So if we could, I'd like to entertain a motion to change the agenda to add communications.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, okay, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Do we have any opposed or abstentions? Okay, hearing none, we will add communications right after the approval of minutes. And okay, so the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Those were sent out ahead of time. Everybody should have had a chance to take a look at those. So if everybody's set, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
To approve minutes.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second it.
Do we have? Okay, Sean has seconded it. So are there any discussion, errors, or admissions in the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposition or abstentions? Hearing none, those are approved. Okay, so now the communications that were received, I don't know, Kathy or you or Tian, do you want to go through the 4 or 5 different things that we received to make sure everybody's got all the decision aids that were sent to us?
I'll try if I remember them all. So
Okay.
we had communications with Ncdc that they did not want to pull their application for request for funding. And the explanation for that is when it was pulled, they didn't have anybody as an interim director. So the person that told me to pull it really didn't have the authority to. So they've asked that we put that back into the mix. So that would be one communication. That covers Ncdc. I think you can see we've had 2 additional items from the Housing Authority, both of those following emails for clarification on their requests for funds. Because I had questions about the application itself and some of the work that was on there, they provided that at your request. I then submitted to HUD for them to review the items and give me some guidance that I could provide to you. That would be the 3rd piece that you'd have there. So 1 from Ncdc, 2 from the Housing Authority, and 1 from HUD. Does that cover it, Les?
There was also a communication from ARC. From ARC
Yep.
responding
and the
to
communication from ARC, yeah.
Okay. And I think that's all that I had on my list. So I think we're all set. So would like to entertain a motion to receive those communications, that everybody has them and has looked at them because they have an impact on our meeting tonight.
Tucker Braddock approves that.
Motion to accept the communications.
Accept the communication.
Yes, I will make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Gamma, thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposition? Okay. And next thing on the agenda is NCDC SBD application. I don't know, Kathy, you want to talk to that?
Sure.
Or-
Is it no one's here from Ncdc?
I don't believe so. I have
Okay.
a Galaxy phone logged in, but
Okay.
I don't know if that's an NCDC representative or if that's member of the public.
Okay. All right. So the NCDC application, as you know, my office had applied for small business grant assistance funds under the first round that we had for the CV funds. And we have now got those out. We're beginning to receive the applications on that. NCDC decided to apply for that funding in this next round. We have had, just to let you know, it would be sort of a continuation of that program. However, they applied to give a little bit less funding than we had initially put in. So the program would be modified to reflect what the application has for funding, which would be $5,000 per applicant. Currently, we're at $10,000 per applicant. I did talk with them since they don't have a director. If they did not have a director that felt that they could do this, they would have their board vote to assign to have it come back to the Community Development Office for administration here, which we're currently doing.
Okay. Kathy, can we just have the amounts be for the first round, please?
219,564 for the first round.
Okay.
And the request for this round is 200,000.
Kathy,
Okay.
of the 219,000 from the first round, how much has been distributed?
None yet, because we just put the program out. We were waiting from HUD. As you recall, I think we had this conversation. We were waiting from HUD to get information. And part of the information that we were waiting on was whether utilities, we could use these funding to pay utility costs. We got that clarification from HUD. And so then we were able to finish the program and put it out for release. We anticipated that a number of businesses would need help with utility funds. And because Norwich owns their own utilities, that created a problem at HUD that they needed to work through, and it needed to go all the way up to Washington.
Up until whenever this last email came out about NCDC, all correspondence had been NCDC was withdrawing their application. So
Correct.
I pulled the tab number 6 out of my my binder.
Yep.
So I've never even reviewed their application. And on Tian's listing of requested amounts, you know, basically the balance sheet, it listed as an employee retention program.
Correct.
And it sounds to, you know, if I'm looking at this, I'm reading it as NCDC employee retention.
No.
Okay,
No, not at all.
This is business retention.
Absolutely, yeah. Because really, we call it a small business grant, which is really what it is. But the criteria is you have to either retain an employee or create an employee to be eligible.
Basically, the PPP, in addition to PPP.
Correct. Somebody might have used Paycheck Protection Program, and that's fine. We just can't duplicate it. So if they use the Paycheck Protection Program, let's just say for June, July, and August of 2020, and they came forward to us now, right now, the way we have our program set up is really you have to use it for utilities and rent, because Paycheck Protection Programs have been available to people. So we've limited basically to utilities and rent. Now we may go back and change that depending on what we see as need in the community. But as a first go around, that's what we're doing. In theirs, they have it $5,000. That would be what we would call a working capital, which could be used for the same thing. It could be used to help float payroll if you need to keep people employed. It could be used to pay equipment leases. It could be used for mortgages or rents. It could be used for utilities, all those types of things.
Okay.
Follow up. Now that you've gotten the clarification of using HUD funds for utility expenses,
Yes.
how much of a request have you got in for that original $219,000?
So it just went out, Mark. It's really hard to say. There's a lot of interest. Right now, I have an accountant that I'm waiting for a return call from. who's working with a group of businesses so that they can submit their applications. A lot of the really small businesses struggle because they don't have the paperwork that we need to get in order to do this the right way. So they have to go to an accountant and try to get those documents drawn up, and they're working on that right now. I think we've received 2 or 3 complete applications, but we just released the program on Monday.
Kathy,
Yes.
Mark, can I just ask a
Go ahead,
question there?
please.
Yes.
This, does that include the businesses under the Foundry 66 profile?
It does. If they've been in
Okay,
existence
okay.
for a year or more.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. This is not meant for people that just open shop during the pandemic and, you know, are looking for
Yeah,
additional
right.
funding. You have to be, you know, semi-established.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the NCDC application, we wanted to make sure it's clear to everybody that there is a clear path, excuse me, to how it would be administered through the Community Development Office.
Right.
And that
And-
the application is back, and the process is set on how it would be administered, because that's extremely
Right,
important that we.
And that I just want people to understand that, you know, we were told to withdraw it, and at the time there was really no one in charge. So we withdrew it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you know, it's one of these things, we're all working through it. When they appointed an interim director, I reached out and said, I just want to make sure you're still okay with us pulling it. And they wanted us to keep it in. That's why it's back to you. Through no fault of theirs, and really kind of no fault through here, we're all doing the best we can.
Kathy, how is your staff going to be? Do you have adequate staff to administer this?
Well, we're working with Sector on this, and we'll continue to work with Sector on it. They're going to perform the underwriting portion of this because I don't really feel strong in that category, and I want it to be done correctly. So they're a great partner for us, and they're going to continue to work with us on this. Tian and I will be going over the applications to make sure that all the documents are there, that the basic eligibility is there. Sector will do the underwriting for us, and then we can go to the award phase.
And they fully understand that because it's Southeastern Connecticut Enterprise, that sector, but
Oh,
this
they
is
know
only for
100%.
Norwich.
It's only Norwich, yeah. And we will be sending
Thank
them the applications. They will not be sending us applications. Applications
Okay,
have to
great.
come through us as the entry point.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so that's the NCDC application back on the table. A little bit of explanation on some of the other stuff that was sent to us under communications
Sure.
was from the Housing Authority. So before we actually get into the deliberations, if Kathy, if you would
Sure.
you like to speak to that?
Absolutely. So you have the information that went back and forth. I was concerned, you know, quite frankly, I was concerned that an environmental review had been done, but it hadn't been conducted by this office, and the project had started. And we have very specific rules in CDBG about environmental reviews and request for release of funds and allowing for public comment. Clearly, all those things couldn't be done. So some things you know, I had questions about that, and quite frankly, I had questions about some of the things that were in there. You know, typically when you use CDBG funds, you go to building grade materials. And if you look through the spec at all, you saw a call for like quartz countertops and luxury vinyl in the bathroom and things like that. So I was concerned because when we get audited, we are always asked to determine that the price is reasonable on something. And while it may be reasonable for those items aren't necessarily reasonable for CDBG dollars to be spent on. And it seems like a hard, you know, we're both hot offices. They get money from a different place. They're responsible for how they administer. I have to administer CDBG. When I'm uncomfortable about something, I make sure I get clarification on it. And I think, you know, what you find in the correspondence that you receive from HUD is that they also seem to question some of the costs as not appearing to be reasonable. and other things that they said did not prevent, prepare for, or respond to coronavirus, which is 100% what this grant funding is for. It has to respond to coronavirus. So there are a few things within there that you could consider for funding. You definitely cannot consider the entire application. Based on what was provided by Capital Studio Architects, you could look through that and say, you know, this, the second checkbox would be considered eligible. The third checkbox, I'm only concerned because it says design of a new interview room for 10,005, and that's not actually an interview room. So, you know, I would question that. And mechanical upgrades seem to be okay with them. So
With HUD.
yes, with
That's okay.
with HUD through for CDBG dollars. And I just want to be very clear.
Okay.
There are different programs from HUD, so there are different requirements for different programs. I'm concerned with CDBG and how those are spent for the city. I've been through audits. I know they ask for cost reasonableness. I know they look at items to make sure they are. I know that the Housing Authority went out to bid. But again, we need to be very aware and conscious of how we allocate those dollars out.
So Kathy, I have a question for you then. Specifically, it appears from the email that you received, that you pushed out to us, that the work that they have already begun on the build out,
Right.
that they basically skipped an EHP compliance review. That is, or something along that extent. And the fact is that I know for many types of grants, accepting them, the terms would be, you know, you can't kind of retroactively say, oh no, but it's okay. You have to go through these things in a you know, linear fashion, and you may obviously, you know, throw yourself out or become disqualified because of that. And so I would be concerned that, first of all, you're looking at sort of one scope of a project. What we did ask for prior is if that could be, you know, in our last meeting, if you could break out your scope of work, give us 2 separate scopes of work so that one of them would be specific and applicable to CDBG CV funds and specific. And I don't know if you've received that or not, but even if you did receive that, then the way forward would be, you know, kind of 2 different things where then the contractor would have to very specifically say, you know, hey, if we're doing the bathroom, we've got to then account for all the materials and time that is taken for this bathroom, you know, to hold it out and separate and apart from. So they would have to be, probably the scope, probably the cost would actually rise because of what you're requiring the contractor to do, because it would be, you know, outside of what a normal contractor would provide, which was just, we spent, you know, 8 hours there and we did X, Y, and Z, and here's a batch of material we used. We've got to separate this out of, this was used in this window, which is good, and this one's not. But then provided that even if 2 scopes of work were actually done and acted on and the costs were separate, so that you could actually use one and use that documentation for CDBG CV funding, that I would be concerned that it would be kind of embroiled in the larger sort of mess of a grant that you did not fund, that you weren't part of, but yet the project was part of because it bypassed environmental, historic, or environmental regulations, or at least review.
Yeah. This has made me uncomfortable, very uncomfortable.
I would imagine. So,
and this is why I sent it to HUD, because I'm very concerned. And, you know, they've signed a contract, which is all right. You know, we haven't spent any money yet. I still have to do an environmental review on what we're looking at doing and do a request for release of funds. And none of that work can occur until that's happened. So I don't know what stage they're at this point, you know, where they are with it. So this makes it very difficult, I think, for the committee to decide what to fund and what not to fund, quite frankly.
Well, they said already that they were 15% forward in their project. I would imagine that they haven't stopped.
No, right. Yeah.
So,
I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, something else on this also is, you know, in the past, folks have tried to, trying to get reimbursement funds for work that they've already done. And that's sort of what this is, that they had already signed the contracts, the program had already been in place. And then all of a sudden it popped up where, hey, they're making more money that we could possibly use. But they were already set in their way. The addition was already in progress. And then they applied for the funds. So I personally, myself, I think it's somewhat inappropriate to at this point, with the regulations that weren't followed, to recommend approval or recommend that they be funded for this project.
Well, Les, I think you're bringing up a really key point, and
Yeah.
Kathy, let me know what you think of that. I mean, you're talking about supplanting, and
Well, that's what I think. That's what I
supplanting
think.
of funds. It's that great term, and you want to like run from. I mean, I would imagine Kathy doesn't want to have anything to do with a potential of supplanting of funds, and that's exactly what it would be, potentially less what you're bringing up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we get in the deliberations, I think we ought to take into consideration to possibly not fund this one, only because of the process that wasn't followed. And also the most of that program, or what they're doing over there, is not necessarily fully COVID related, because it was already in place before COVID came along. They didn't design and build this only because of COVID. It was already in place. So,
Right.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind as well. Yeah, go ahead, Tucker.
That's 2 points.
Tucker, go ahead.
They started this work without any anticipation of CDBG funds. They signed a contract without any anticipation of CDBG funds.
Right.
And the last piece of that correspondence with HUD that you have says a grantee cannot begin work on activity and then decide to use CDBG funds to pay for it.
Yep.
Because all cross-cutting requirements may not have been met. And it
Correct.
sounds like there's a lot of retroactive requirements before we could even consider releasing funds to them.
You are correct. 100%.
Yep.
For the record, I would like to say, though, that I think that the work that they do is incredibly valuable, and I think none of this should discount, that fact that I think is
Yeah.
very important. So,
And that's not the argument, Gemma. Because we're sitting here with $540,000 and $840,000 of requests. So, we have to actually look at, unfortunately, we've got to get rid of $300,000 somewhere.
Mark, I completely agree with you. That's not the issue at all. I'm just saying, for the record, I think what they do is good. Their application may not be something that, can be funded, but nonetheless, it doesn't discount the work that they actually do on the ground.
Right.
Poor elderly, we may be the poor elderly living in Norwich housing at some point in time.
We're moving into your house with that fireplace, Mark. I hate to tell you. That's gorgeous.
Okay, so the next one is ARC.
Okay.
ARC gave us
Right.
Go
So their
ahead.
correspondence was about their eligibility, and she talked about, again, sort of like the number of people, the money they've asked for. I would say that the door system that they want to put on would not be eligible, because they want to give out fobs to everyone. And that would mean that everybody coming in from other communities would be using those fobs. So I think that part of it, I would have question with. And
that was
eligibility.
$5,000 specifically for that, right? 5,000
Correct.
for that one.
Yes.
And the other 5,000 that they asked for was for PPE for their homes, and
Right.
22 homes specifically, and only 3 are in Norwich.
Right.
So that 5,000 divided between 22 homes, we really can't do that. We can only provide funding to Norwich residents.
Yeah,
Right.
I heard that. Les, but she goes on to say we're requesting 5,000 for masks, and gloves, and 5,500 to go toward the purchase of additional safety equipment, which for offices, residents in Norwich. Oh.
Yeah. The,
Oh.
go ahead.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
going
so
to
we
cut
can
out.
talk
I'm sorry.
about that.
Yes, it cut out
Yep.
a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody have any questions on that before we get into the deliberations? Okay, hearing none, I think we have the full list of all of the applications, and what I would like to do is, as we did last time, and I think we've done this the last few years, we sort of give them a grade of an A, B, and a C. Just talking about an A is somebody that we definitely want to fund, maybe up to the full amount. A B is somebody we most likely would like to fund, possibly up to full amount, maybe not. A C would be somebody we most likely would not fund, or not recommend funding at this round. So would like to go through and just sort of grade them. Makes it much easier on us when we start getting into the number side of it. So anybody
list,
want to go
please.
with?
Please make sure you
Yep.
add back in the NCDC one.
Yes.
I don't know if you have an
NCDC is,
updated list. Okay, thank you.
yes. Yeah. Tian sent that out.
Okay, great.
So we found out in the past, the easiest thing to do is to start out at the ones that we may not fund or may not fund fully. Recommendations? Anybody? Okay, then I'll jump in. I think at this point, because of the amount of money we have versus what I would like to, I think it's would be, in my opinion, the Norwich Housing Authority at this point. We probably want to not fund them.
Yeah, I second that.
Yes, I agree.
At this time, and I'm sure that there'd be more CDBG money available in the course of the year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well,
I mean,
they're very good at applying for anything that we have. So
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
clarify that, we are currently, we'll be accepting our applications February 17th for our regular CDBG round. So we're going to be together for a while, guys.
Hey, sorry, I got
Thanks for
cut
that
out.
information.
okay, so we'll put a C next. Who's talking?
Hey.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tucker.
this is Tucker, and I'm sorry I got cut out. Another call came in, and I
Turn the camera
thought
off, listen to the meeting.
but I did not.
Sorry.
So, but what I'm talking about was the ARC. Did we come to a conclusion on that?
No, we did not come to a conclusion on ARC. We just wanted to make sure that we clarified the information they sent to us, and now that'll be part of the deliberation. They get a grade, and then we'll determine from there where we go as far as money
Okay,
for them.
okay.
So we're still putting the grades out right now. So far, we have a C for the Norwich Housing Authority. Now we can go fully fund, I would suspect, the CD Office Administration for 49,338. I would personally like to give an A to. I don't know if anybody else has any.
I don't think we get a choice on that.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
You do.
Okay.
Gemma, I would
Yeah, but
agree.
since we're going to be together for a little while, maybe we should keep the peace.
Yeah, we need to play nicely.
Yes,
Okay.
I would give that an A as well.
Okay.
I would too.
Same here.
Okay. Okay, so I think we're at an A for that. And who else would like to, I don't want to give recommendations on all of them. Somebody else jump in there. Anybody want to give an A?
I'd
or-
like to give an A to United Way Sect. Food for people is important at this particular point in time, even equally as important as many other things, if not more.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
totally. And they could, I think, the interesting thing here is that they're picking up a lot of the agencies that would normally be applying on their own, so that they are representing the Norwich area, I think, in a very good way, Madonna Place, and things of that nature.
Multiple, access points, which is good.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot the word multiple. But I feel strong about that as well.
Okay, so does anybody else want to talk to that? Other than an A?
I'd like to actually,
go ahead.
Kathy, I just have a quick question with regards to United Way. Refresh my memory. There was nothing adverse in that application, correct?
No, they specifically stated who they would be working with, and they were only the Norwich the Norwich distribution sites for food. So that would be eligible.
Thank you. So that being said, then I would second that, and I would give them an A.
Okay. Great. So it looks like the United Way is pretty much unanimous in A. And let's, how about the Norwich Human Services, Norwich Cares, 350? What do people feel about that?
I think we've got to knock some dollars off of that to get to budget.
Okay.
This is the biggest line item we have, and with the larger line items, you can knock a few dollars off, and it would still have a significant impact.
Okay.
So that would, I'm just looking at it from a practical point of view.
Okay, so I would give them an A, and then if you need to pull something off of that, then so be it. Work on the budget a little bit, but I would still give them an A. What about you, Mark?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm of that same mind. This is an important area that Norwich residents take full advantage of. Yet, it's again, it becomes the largest line item. So,
yeah, and that's that's one of the reasons why we grade them first without really talking money, and then we go back and massage the money side of it a little bit.
Yeah, and I give it an A minus B plus.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
This is Tucker, and I would give them an A.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, A from me as well.
Okay. So that ends up with an A or A minus. I agree with Mark that it's extremely important, like all of us say, and there may be a little ability to move a little bit of money out of that one should we need to do that. Okay, how about let's go to the Ncdc. This is the Employment Retention Program. This is the one for businesses in town to try and help them survive.
Again, this is another, maybe there's some cost sharing for reduction purposes between CARES and NCDC. I hate to more on the on CARES and less on NCDC because of the proportionality.
Yeah, and I agree with that. One thing to keep in mind, I think, on the NCDC is that there is no money allocated for labor, so to speak. That's all picked up by the different organizations. So all of that money goes to the end users, which I think is an important consideration.
Yeah.
On which one?
For NCDC, there's no money that really goes to labor or for staffing. It all goes to the end user.
No, they do have money in there for that. I just want to be clear.
Oh, that's right. 20%. Yeah, they did have a percentage in there.
However, when I talked with Fawn, it seems like we will be administering it, so we would not take that money out of it.
Okay. So if we
as an
funded them,
FYI.
So if we did fully fund NCDC, then all of that money would go to the end user with the process that is set up for administration of the program.
Yes.
Okay. So do we want to go with an A on that one at this point? Just an extremely important.
I'm still in A. I'm still in A minus.
A minus for NCD. Okay. Because meaning that it's important, but we may want to look at
Yeah, well,
Not fully-
we're, you know, before we even give a dime to ARC, we're $81,000 away from how much money we have.
Oh, right. Okay, so at this point,
I'd give an A to NCDC.
okay.
I would give, Ms. Tucker, I would give an A to NCDC because of what they're trying to accomplish with small businesses. And those people, this is how we're going to fulfill the vacancies that we have in our downtown community. And
Yep.
I think that that's a very important issue to all of us.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
I
Okay,
agree.
so the only one left at this point is ARC. And we already talked about a portion of what they requested is not eligible. And that was, I believe, 5,500, is that correct, Kathy, for the door?
I have to go back. Let me just check it. I think it was. Yeah, breakdown. 5,500, yes.
Okay, so they're asking for 10.5, so if we took the 55 not eligible, that leaves 5,000 for PPE basically. And then should we decide to take a little bit more out of that, only because focusing on their homes, only a few of them are in Norwich. So that's part of the discussion on how much they would get. So I think initially it would be, so I guess they would end up as a B. You know, that we do think we would like to fund them, but not fully.
I'd second that. A B
Anybody-
sounds good.
Okay, anybody else want to pipe in there?
Yeah, well, we're
Yeah,
short.
I give them, I give them a C.
No funding?
Yeah, I think they deserve funding. I think these homes, these are people in these homes who are not functioning. And there are people there that are taking care of them. And because they're non-functioning as you and I may be, they're going to make mistakes, and they have to be protected. I'm not sure where they get the rest of their money from. That shouldn't be a concern to me right now. But these are disabled people, and and I think they're going through a lot of coronavirus right now.
So let me just,
At least
from a HUD standpoint on this, the problem we have,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you this with the application, is that even though the last time we gave them PPE, they again were told it needed to be specifically for the homes in Norwich, and God knows if it was or not, right? But
No
you know, it was supposed
accountability
to
there.
be. And then they put in an application again, and again, it's sort of like, how are we supposed to determine what's going where? And you know, when you put in an application that doesn't fit what you're applying for, it's difficult,
Yeah,
I think, for all of us to decide. It's not that they're not
Yeah.
worthy or just, it's just that we have to make sure that that money is benefiting Norwich residents.
Even
I
when
agree.
they amended their application, to sort of kind of be for Norwich only, the 3 homes, their cost of PPE for like the month was $5,000.
Yes,
And I find that,
undoubtedly. Mhm.
and I sort of find that, you know, for a paper gown and a face mask and gloves by 3 homes, I think that sounds to me a little bit disproportionate, because I don't know, maybe because
But Mark, I don't
know what the
think it
costs are.
is. I don't think it is at all, because unfortunately, I think with the guidelines that, you know, you have people that have to physically go in these homes, and they are required to go ahead and change them out every single time they're used. And so that amount really builds up. So I would imagine that could easily be a solid number. But that being said, I completely agree with Kathy. I mean, it does seem astronomical, and it's unfortunate that they're one use garments, so to speak, one use PPE.
Oh yeah, they're paper garments.
But this is COVID.
And then there's the accountability, you know, what Kathy talks about, it's the accountability that, you know, we've gone with them once before. Now we're doing it again, and the same questions arise.
So I might mention just a really quick thing with regards to ARC that might actually make this conversation a little bit happier. So Kathy and Tian were able to provide me with Penny Newbury's information a few weeks ago. And I passed that up to Dana Conover. He's the Demis Regional Coordinator for, excuse me, I've been dealing with them all day. Demis, the PA Coordinator for the State of Connecticut, Public Assistance Coordinator, that is. And he handles FEMA public assistance funding. And and he had a conversation with Penny Newbury. It turns out that ARC has never been an applicant. They are working in close coordination at this point in time with Penny Newbury and ARC. And it looks like once that application process has gone through and they are determined to be an eligible 401c3, that they're going to be actually eligible to receive funding, not only here going forward, but actually backdated to January, the beginning of the pandemic, January 29, so to speak, something like that. So it looks like FEMA can probably reimburse them, if not 100%, because FEMA is changing some rules so that some of these activities are going to be reimbursed 100, but even 75%. So it looks like they'll be able to reimburse some of their activities and some of their purchases back there, so upwards of over $100,000. So it might make you feel a little bit better knowing that maybe they're not going to get anything from here, this round of funding, if it doesn't work out. They're still actually sort of like...
They actually, from our committee, through you, got more than they would have gotten through our committee.
Well, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, knowing certain tie-ins. So we're looking at maybe over 100,000 easy for them. Straight up.
That is so fabulous, Gemma.
It's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
that was a very, very astute find for, and even the conversation you had at the last meeting to bring that about. That was very good. Thank you.
Happy news.
Yep.
Well, I couldn't be happier. You know, it was a good connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay,
So Kathy, one question I had. I know location was one of the issues as well. We wasn't sure how many locations they had in Norwich. I'm just sure if you mentioned that before. Did you find out that scenario? How many percentage?
I don't believe she answered that in her letter. I don't have the letter in front of me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Les, how many? 3 houses, right?
Yeah, they've got
3
22
houses.
total houses. That's what the request was for the 22 houses. And then same as the last application, we asked them to clarify how many houses are actually in Norwich, of which only 3 are in Norwich. So if you just did a percentage of it, you know, 22, what's 3 out of 22, what percentage out of 5,000, you know, we could work it that way if you guys wanted to.
Well, that would be such a small amount of money. I would.
Yeah, at that point, it's not even, it would have no impact.
Yeah.
So
in that case, I'll probably give them a C, maybe a B minus. So.
Okay, B minus on our.
Yeah, since we're unclear about how many locations. I mean, we say 3, but still, I don't know. I guess we'll see when we come down to the dollars and cents, and I see where if there's any leftovers, we can give them something. But
okay. So I think we've got all the information on all the applications. So right now, if we did the full funding for the office, community development office, and full funding for human services, full funding for United Way, full funding for NCDC, that brings us up to $674,000. So that's $130,000 above what we have, and we need to figure out what to do with ARC. So we're going to be about $135,000 at this point above what we have to spend. So that's about how much we have to figure out how to pull, how much to pull out of these applications. It's about $135,000. So I know
And we've
several had said they would several said that they would like possibly as an A- for the Norwich Human Services and NCDC possibly reduce the amounts there, and that's definitely an option because they are the biggest line items. And Tucker, go ahead.
Did we cut out the Norwich housing?
Yeah,
Yes.
we did.
Yeah, we already,
Okay.
we gave them so I've got nothing for them on the line item at this point. So with
Yeah.
everybody fully funded except ARC, and we took out Norwich Housing Authority, we're at 674,000. We only have 544,000 to spend. So we need about
Right.
130,000 we need to 135,000 we need to decide how much goes to ARC, if any, and then how much we would pull most likely the Human Services and NCDC. And we can also pull from United Way if we need to, the
Yeah,
food, because there are.
I think it, in the sense of proportionality, you end up having to, you know, there's just way too much money that we're over. I'd like to pull $195 from CD administration, because that gets us to 130,000 on the nose.
Thank you.
Do you want to pull?
I
You wanna pull how
appreciate
much?
that.
Well, everybody's, you know, we're just trying to make the pain go around a little bit.
Well, I was actually going to suggest cutting another 5,000 from that too.
From yours, Kathy?
Yes.
5195.
So it'd be 40, let's say 45, 143.
45, 143, okay.
Yes. And we'll see if that helps at all.
That
Oh,
does.
that brings,
That
yeah, makes it easier. Yeah, that brings 5,000. Yep. So now we're at 670,000. We've got 544,000 to spend. You know, the biggest line items obviously are extremely important only because,
Yeah.
you know, they pay for rent, they pay for utilities, they help keep businesses open. Hopefully we'll have enough to survive to have enough businesses to, once we get through this.
And
Wait a
Leanne's
second.
used all her money.
What's that?
Leanne has used all her money.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's got a huge impact on all the residents in town.
Yeah.
And
landlords
part
and-
of sort of one thing to keep in mind looking down the road is, and we have a big meeting on the 16th on this, is for the state. Is the housing moratorium is going to be up in a little while, and we don't have an idea of what the order of magnitude of that is going to impact citizens of the town. And this is the one line item that would help that area, keeping people with the roof over their heads. Because that's the biggest unknown on the recovery side of things that we have. So we just need to keep that in. What's Tucker?
That meeting is on the 16th. From the state of
Tucker,
Connecticut. Yeah.
Tucker?
Is that meeting on the 16th? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, now we can.
Okay. That meeting is on the 16th as to the housing moratorium from the state of Connecticut.
No, well, that's one of the items that'll be discussed at that one, so we'll have a little more information. You know, trying to determine what the order of magnitude of the issue is. So it's just such an unknown right now, and the reason I bring that up is because the line item from Norwich Human Services is the line item that would have a significant impact on that also. So just some of the decision aids we have to use to determine how much we're going to give them. So we need to.
What if we took it all from NCDC? What are we looking at?
What's that, Gemma? I'm sorry.
What if we took it all from NCDC? What would we?
Leave NCDC with $75,000.
could we split the difference between the Norwich Cares and NCDC? I guess 67,000 from each, or yeah. Can we split the difference?
Yeah, we could, sure.
We,
I mean, we have to get,
we could look at that. So if we take 350,000 minus 67,000, what does that leave us? About 2, that'd be 287, right? Who's got their calculator? Who's keeping track of the money here? I know we all are as
I was
usually
trying to.
TAs.
Hey, Kathy, did you say
I-
a $5,000 5195 reduction or a 4195 reduction
For who?
for CD administration?
So we're
We're
at
de-
45,143.
That's a 4,195 reduction.
Yeah.
that's correct.
And honestly, I'd take another 5,000 on that if you wanted.
Well, no, let's
I
How
quit.
about how about a $1,000 to make it a square $5,195 we remove from your budget,
Sure.
which leaves us at a deficiency of a square 125,000 that we have to
Right.
distribute between 2 or 3 different recipients.
Okay, so for CD office, what's the final number you're recommending?
44,143.
Okay. And if we took,
You guys,
said, let's,
you guys still have ARC at 0?
I still
Yes, we
have
do.
ARC at 0. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
really?
I-
Because
And
I
we,
have,
it was
I have that split. So Norwich Cares at 290,000 and NCDC at 144,000.
well, we did, it was brought up to take 67,000 away from Norwich Cares.
Yeah, that's where I got
Which
the
takes-
290. So you want to increase that?
That's 273,000.
Well, I think what
Actually-
we're looking at is we had 125,000 that we had to cut.
Exactly.
So it was, did you want to take 62.5 out of both, or what did you want to do?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, just split the difference between Norwich Cares and NCDC. That's my opinion.
I'd say 50-75, 50 out of NCDC and 75 out of CARES. It's a kind of a sense
Yeah.
of proportionality.
I
Right,
agree. I agree with that too.
Yeah, I agree with that also, because the Norwich Housing, the NCDC that's a program that's going to have tremendous impact in town also. So if we took that down to what, 150? Right?
Yeah, I believe that's how, yes. Yes,
I agree with
NCDC
Mark
down
as
to
well.
150.
I agree with
And-
Mark.
And,
What's that, Neil?
NHS down to 275. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that brings
273.
us right. That brings us right to 544,143, and that's with no funding to ARC.
Unfortunately, I think this round, I vote to pass on ARC.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because they ended up with a B and a C grade from this group. So much of they do tremendous amount of value. I know it, but I agree at this point. Possibly not.
Well, I
fund
think Ms. researched this, and her find is pretty substantial, and hopefully that Penny will make that connectivity with FEMA so that they can pick up that 100 Gs.
Yeah.
And I'm encouraged
Yeah.
very much.
Okay. Okay, so in review right now, if we go down the list, for Community Development Office, we have 44,143. For ARC, we have 0. For Norwich Human Services Cares, we have 275,000. For United Way, we have 75,000. For Norwich Housing Authority, we have 0. And for NCDC Employment Retention Program, we have 150,000. That brings us right at $544,143, which is exactly what we have. Does that sound right to everybody?
Yep.
That sounds perfect. And it's 6 o'clock. You couldn't do better.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so I guess instead of doing a motion for each one of them, we could entertain a motion to recommend approval to fund the following list that I just
Motion to approve the following list as previously determined.
By Les King.
Okay.
And I will second
Okay.
that motion, Tucker Brad.
I will second that one.
Okay. Okay. Great. And do we have any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition, abstentions? Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
Thank
Those
you,
numbers.
everybody.
Thank you for
Yeah.
chipping in, Missy.
Yeah, I know. I really hated having to do that with the housing authority. I hope you know that, but that's my job.
Listen,
Yeah.
I read that that discussion with
Yeah.
HUD, and I actually would like to have funded it at least,
Yeah.
mostly,
Mhm.
but when
Yeah.
you put NCDC back in there, which
Yeah.
is a direct,